are so many speakers out there in the world. People who are aspiring speakers, people who have been around for a long time. And then there's you. You want to be a speaker, don't you? But sometimes I know you look around and you're like, does the world really need another speaker? How do I avoid sounding just like that guy or that chick over there? Is my voice, is my story, is my being going to be enough to break through the noise? I know that's what you're asking yourself. And so, because I am here as your professional speaking BFF, I am going to help answer that question and give you some tangible tips on how to, in fact, break out from the noise, stand out, become an inspiring professional speaker without sounding like everyone else in this episode today of the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast. All right, let's go.
Welcome to the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast with Aleya Harris. If you're looking for actionable ways to overcome communication and differentiation challenges by sharing radically authentic stories, you are in the right place. Listen in and learn how to stand in the power of your unique narrative to transform your personal life, business, and workplace culture. And now, your host, award-winning international speaker, strategic storytelling consultant, and Japanese whiskey lover, Ruby Coral's mom, Aleya Harris.
Episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast is brought to you by my upcoming book, Spark the Stage. That's right. Your girl wrote a book and it is coming out on September 19th, which also just so happens to be my birthday. Yes, it is the birthday present that I am giving to myself, the present of becoming a published author. Spark the Stage, Mastering the Art of Professional Speaking and Authentic Storytelling will help you discover how to turn your life experiences into a compelling message that captivates, motivates, and leaves a lasting impact. Overcome fear, inspire audiences, and become the confident, authentic speaker you have dreamed of. Basically, this book is everything from soup to nuts on how you can become a speaker who people go, ooh, I like them. Ooh, I want to hear them speak at my next event. Ooh, pay them all the money. That is what this book will help you do. You will unlock your speaking potential, transform your voice, understand how to get the gig, and yes, my friend, actually get on the stage. So, Spark the Stage, which yes, is the same name as my course, Spark the Stage, will be out September 19th and available any and everywhere you purchase books. Now that we have that teaser laid down, let's get down to some nitty-gritty about how and why you shouldn't sound like everyone else. And in fact, that's why I wrote the book, or one of the reasons. I was super tired of hearing speakers who just felt like copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. It was infuriating for me because I felt like I was stuck in some weird Groundhog's Day of the speaker circuit because people picked up tips and tricks from each other, but didn't actually sound or like themselves and add anything useful to the conversation. They were saying good information at times, but if I just want straight up information, I can go read a blog post. I can go and hang out on the internet. I don't need to change out of my pajamas, put my butt in the seat in some clothes, pants, am I right? And sit in an audience and go to a conference and listen to you. I want to be entertained. I want to feel something with my butt in the seat. And many speakers just don't know how to do that. My challenge when I came on the speaker scene was trying to figure out how I was going to do that while still like being seen as a professional, like a legit human who people wanted to pay me money to do things. And I realized that second part, like, oh, am I going to be too much me? I'm going to be oh so me that no one will pay me? That was a ridiculous thought. The more me I was, the more unique I was, the more I stepped out into my wonderfulness, the better of a speaker I was, the more I got booked, the more people took me seriously, the more people asked how they could speak like me. So I wrote the book and I'm talking to you today because there's a need in the market for, well, you. There's a need for more of you, not the you filtered through all the, oh, I should be this and shouldn't be that, but the you that can deliver a structured speech, right? So we're not just talking willy-nilly, but the you that is within you, your radically authentic self, the part of you that knows exactly what to do, the wise part of you, the part that channels, the part that is excited to be here and we're excited to listen to, that part of you is the part that is the hole in the market. And I want you to fill it. I want you to step out and tell your story, share your authenticity, share your knowledge with the world. The book is all about authenticity, storytelling, and personal transformation. And if you've ever felt like you're blending into the crowd or that your story isn't worth telling, this episode and my book are here to change that. Did I say I had a book coming out? How many more shameless plugs can I fit into the beginning of this episode? I'm also really excited. I mean, I don't know if you're listening to me and you have a book and this is just like, oh, I've written 20 books. One book is nothing. But poo-poo on that because this is my first book and I am super jazzed, not only to have written it, but to have something out into the world that I have complete faith in that will help people. So September 19th, get the book. Let's launch into how you can connect on a deeper level. Authentic storytelling, or the way I like to call it, radically authentic strategic storytelling, is crucial if you're going to be a professional speaker. Audiences crave genuine connection, and that connection and those authentic stories resonate more because they're relatable and more human. I was speaking at Entrepreneur, which is a SaaS company, and I was speaking, I think it was like their company annual meeting or biannual meeting, something along those lines. And I was talking about storytelling stuff and businessy stuff and marketing stuff. Yeah, sure. But I also started talking about transformation and how storytelling was important by sharing the story of my postpartum journey. If this is your first episode with me, welcome. Hey, it's so good to see you. And you should probably scroll back because I talk about this dang postpartum thing a lot. But the clip notes, I guess, is that like after I had my beautiful baby girl, my favorite human in the world, I had about 10, 11 months of severe postpartum depression and it wreaked havoc on my entire life, including my finances. So I was telling that story. And when I got off stage, people, yes, were like, oh, yes, thank you for the storytelling. Thank you for your tips, et cetera, et cetera. But there was a line of people waiting to talk to me, which is not abnormal. I tend to have that effect on people. But most of the people that wanted to talk to me were men, women, people who said, thank you so much for telling that postpartum story. I really connected with that and people needed to hear that. I struggled with that. My partner struggled with that. My partner is going through that right now. And you gave me the words and the insight into what they are dealing with so I could be a better partner. Now I know how to integrate myself into their story. My goal as Aleya Harris in life is to love people into the highest versions of themselves. After I got through talking to that line of people in this software company, some in tears, some not in tears, telling me that they enjoyed and experienced a connection with themselves, with me, and they were going to go and connect better with other people, that to me meant that I was fulfilling my purpose in life. And yes, they understood better how to tell stories. And yes, they understood the nuts and bolts and where to put the words, etc. But they were going to go practice it in a way that uplifted themselves and other people. And that's why I am here. So being radically authentic, sharing my story, not trauma dumping, but sharing my story in a constructive, inspiring way, led to key moments of true transformation. You're not getting that from a blog post, people. That only happens through the medium of public speaking, through the art of professional speaking from the stage. Homework time. I encourage you to take a pause and identify the moments in your life that have shaped you and how these moments could be the core of your talk. In my book and in my course, I talk about crisis stories, and there's a whole methodology I have in both of them on how to collect your crisis stories and share them in inspiring ways. But for now, just think about those moments. Why are you the person that you are? How did you come to be that way? What has happened to you that has shaped you, molded you, and made you the person that is fully equipped to tell that new story? Those are the stories that we're talking about. Once you're able to connect, that alone is your differentiator because you're starting to step into the place of who you truly are. Many people fall into the trap of trying to sound like everyone else, and then they lose their unique voice in the process. They go to too many speakers meetings, too many Toastmasters meetings. They listen in every single session of every single conference that they go in, and they take notes thinking that they're being a diligent student of the craft. But then they begin to lose themselves in the voices of other people. It's one thing to take notes on structure, on technique, on what moves an audience, what shapes an audience. And it is another thing to mimic someone else's style because you're like, well, they're effective, so that must just be how it's done. They're effective because that is them. And there are people even that get booked that I've reached out to or that have reached out to me and we've connected as fellow speakers. And I'm like, oh my God, this feels so slimy. They're always on. They don't know how to turn it off. They don't know who they really are. And it's almost like their on button gets stuck in the on position because they're afraid if they turn it off and they're just them, then they're not saleable anymore. People aren't going to buy that. They're selling a persona that eventually becomes flat. Like, have you met people with like super fake looking veneers and like from far away, their teeth look really cool and everything looks polished. And then you get up close and it kind of looks like they're wearing like dentures or something's weird. And like the extreme perfection of their mouth makes you go, I don't know what's happening here, but it's making me a little uncomfortable. That's the kind of speaker I'm talking about. I don't know what's happening here, but it's making me uncomfortable. I don't feel like I'm getting something that is natural and true. So I'm going to maybe continue engaging, maybe get what I can get out of this conversation. But in the back of my mind, I have my, oh no, stranger danger kind of rise up in me. And you don't want that because when people have their guard up or when people feel uncomfortable, they feel like they can't relate to you, then you're not going to be able to reach them and cause that true transformation. You're not going to be able to be the highest service you can be to that audience and that audience member. So I think that you should, if I were you, shake off, if you can, it sometimes takes some time, the veneers, shake off the things that you've seen from other people that you feel like, oh, that must be the way it is. I have to be just like that. And instead, list 3 qualities about yourself that make you unique as a person and a speaker. If I had to do this for me, I think I would say like my energy, right? It's a channeled energy straight from spirit. that I gloriously and gratefully share with other people. It's this sense that gives me that connection. It makes me super unique. It's the fact that I don't shy away and in fact embrace the spiritual side and the human side of business. And I share that from the stage, and I teach people how to do that as well. I think another thing is probably also my voice. I use my voice. I use it as a tool. I use it in ways to make sure I articulate different points in specific ways. And then I teach you how to do that in my book too. But my voice is unique. I've had people turn around and be like, I know that voice. And then they are like, oh my God, you're Aleya from the podcast. I'm like, yes, I am. Oh my God, you recognize me from my voice. So I don't know. Off the top of my head, those are 3 qualities I think make me unique as a person and a speaker. I also care. And I don't know, there's lots of people out there that care, but I care from the stage. And I don't know if that happens very frequently. So off the top of my head, those are 3 qualities I would list. What 3 qualities would you list? Think about how those qualities can be integrated into stories that you tell from the stage. And the more you integrate who you are, what you do, that is going to stand out. We're not looking for some gimmick here to get you to stand out. That's not going to work. The gimmicks become trite. The gimmicks become things that people go, ooh, that's weird and creepy. And they make you feel false. The pro tip here is to be yourself. And you're just like, WTF, Aleya. Like, people have been saying, oh, I went on that date with that guy. I was nervous. Just be myself. I'll be fine. I am actually telling you, yes, be yourself. However, read the book. And I have an entire section about telling you how to do that, because I realized that if you could, just be yourself, and it was so easy. Yeah, I'm just going to go be myself. You would have done it already. And you wouldn't feel the need to go and sop up the swag of other people, right? And BT dubs, like, you're not alone in that feeling like, oh, I need to go and see how people do it and do it like that to be successful. I used to do that all the time. In my copy, in my website, in my design. The very first story in my book is all about how I did that so much, I lost myself. I wasn't even the voice in my own head anymore because I was trying so much to be like somebody else. So if this is you and this is what you're doing, there is no shade, there is no judgment, there is no nada here. I have been there. And that's how I also know that being me is so much cooler, and being me also makes me more money. And I want you to make money. I will love that for you. I love big money for you. Do you love big money for you? I love big money for you. So that's what I encourage you to do to stand out. So once you've kind of thought about how you can be and why you can be more radically authentic, then I want you to think about, okay, how do I develop that style? Because you shouldn't be like everybody else. I see all the time people sticking to safe topics, people being the status quo, doing the same things on stage. And I feel bad for conference organizers because the pool of people they have to choose from is very homogenous, right? Even if the people look different, the stuff that they're going to do on the stage is very similar. There's not a lot of uniqueness. If you can articulate your uniqueness and how it also has tangible, actionable takeaways for the audience, then you're going to stand out in your speaker submission, and you're going to be the drop of fresh, cool, alkaline water that they've been waiting for as they've been wandering through the dry desert of all of these speakers that sound and look the same. So if you can stand out, then you can transform yourself, and you should embrace your radically authentic self to do that. To think about how to move through this process, I encourage you to write down a time when you felt most like yourself on the stage or in a presentation or just in general in life, when you felt like, oh my God, oh, I feel so relaxed into me right now. I feel like I am thriving. The zing is happening. The peace is happening. The relief is happening. What is that moment? Write down 1, write down 10, write down those moments And ask yourself, what is it about those moments or that moment that felt so right? What were you doing? What were you thinking? How were you acting? What were you not doing? What were you not thinking? What had you just done right before that? What were you thinking about doing right afterwards? Often for me, when I think of that, moments like that, I'm just in the moment. And sometimes when I'm feeling like the most me, I'm talking and I don't even really realize the words that I'm saying because they're channeled. I'm the most me when I just kind of move over and let the shoulds go, the big hair go, all the trappings of the external of Aleya go. And I just allow that radically authentic part of me to shine through. And it feels like, wow, that was hella dope that I just said that. And wow, where did that come from? Or, oh my gosh, look at that person. Look at them light up. It's like being on stage and watching little light bulbs flicker on in the audience and people's faces and smiles, or, oh my God, I got to write that down looks. And I just feel like, oh, this is it. How do I stay in this pocket for as long as possible? It's magic. And I want you to become your most radically authentic self because it'll make you more money, because you'll be a better speaker, but just so you can also just, gosh, feel the feeling of how amazing it feels to be in that place. And then you start craving it and seeking it and meditating to get it and writing to get it and doing all the exercise that I tell you to do in my book and in my course to get it. And I want that for you, because it's contagious and it's a little bit addictive, but the kind of good addiction that you want, being addicted to being the best, most loving person that you can be. So write down those times, write down that time, talk about and think about what made it feel so right, and then seek to be more of that person, more of the time. Because it then comes through in your body language. It then comes through in the content you choose. It then comes through in how confident you are from stage, or confident in even getting to the stage when you're seeking and experiencing more moments like that more frequently. Once you are tapped in, or as I like to hear from Abraham Hicks, tuned in, tapped in, turned on. That's what it is for Abraham Hicks. Once you figure that part out, then it's about creating your signature story and using storytelling techniques to get there. You want to find a personal story to start off with that you can use as the backbone of your signature talk, that you can use as the backbone of your work, that you can tell to people in 10 minutes, that you can extend and piece out in 60 minutes. And my signature stories, I found, and they've evolved over time. The postpartum story was a signature story. Me telling a story about being Stevie Wonder's private chef, and then that journey that it took me on, that is a signature story for me. Me making $250,000 in 6 months and then promptly losing it all and getting into $180,000 of debt. That is a signature story. By the way, I tell that story inside of my book, how I made it and lost it all, and how you cannot do that. Those are signature stories that I have had and that have been the baseline for my work as a storyteller, as a consultant, as a marketer. If you notice, I'm not a marketer. I mean, I can work with people who are working in the postpartum space, for example, but that's not my niche. My niche is not postpartum. My niche is working with corporate executives and entrepreneurs who want to tell a better, more differentiated, more authentic, more lucrative story. So the stories that I tell might be in a certain area, but they always draw back to the core of my work. So I encourage you to, again, once you're doing this work, you're doing all the action steps that I'm telling you so far in this episode, to choose one story from your life that you feel could be that powerful message and start refining it using the principles from my book, which you're going to go and read, Spark the Stage. And then you're going to craft your narrative around that. Your narrative needs to have the key points, like what was the challenge? How did you transform other people? What were the lessons that you learned that you can give to other people? It needs to have a good and clear beginning, middle, and end. Pro tip, the first thing that comes out of your mouth when you're on stage is not, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'd like to thank the organizers for having me here. What a great crowd. Oh, hey, Cindy. I see you, Cindy. I see you, Cindy. Oh, gag me with a spoon. The first thing that comes out of your mouth needs to be a powerful, poignant sentence that shuts everybody up and brings their attention directly into you. And then your job is to hold that attention for the next 60 minutes. It should be a sentence that makes people go, I'm sorry, what did you just say? It should be a sentence that makes people go, oh, we're doing that today. I wasn't expecting that. It should be a sentence that makes people go, how did she know that was a thing? Did she? I mean, I'm just going to look down, but I feel like she's talking directly to me. That is how you kick off the challenge. That is how you then say what you're going to transform and you have those lessons. You need to make the story that you're telling at the very beginning of a signature talk feel natural and not overly polished. But that first sentence, if you don't memorize anything else, which you shouldn't memorize word for word in a signature talk, if you don't memorize anything else, you memorize that first sentence and you deliver it so cleanly, so well paced that people are captivated and they can't wait to hear what the second sentence is. When you're telling those stories, don't over rehearse. Do not memorize. This is not a TED Talk. It is a signature talk. It is a keynote. Don't be overly self-promotional. Like, you know how about 3 sentences in this podcast episode, I talk about my book? This is not a signature talk. This is my podcast episode. Welcome. I have to do here whatever I want to do and talk about whatever I want to talk about, including the fact that my book is coming out on September 19th and you should buy it. But from stage, this would be horrible. I would never do this. I would mention my book maybe once at the end and call it a day because that's not what I'm there for. I'm there to be of the highest good and serve. And here, yes, I am of the highest good and I'm serving, but let's be faces. This is free content that you're getting out of me. I'm trying to convert you into a paying customer. Go buy the book on September 19th. You also, when you're getting on stage, in addition to not being overly rehearsed, not being too self-promotional, you don't want to be flat. Go there. Go to that emotional place. Go there. Do not manipulate and cry your eyes out on the stage. You want to take people there. If the audience is crying, yes, you're probably doing it right. If you are able to tell a super relatable story and people are like, oh my God, I don't even know what to do about that information, that I can feel that, I relate to that. That's just like this, the commonalities of the emotion it makes me feel like how I felt in this area of my life that might have nothing to do with that exact story, but I felt it. I'm connecting to it. I have actually, but an odd coincidence, I've had 2 students within Spark the Stage who have had traumatic brain injuries. And both stories, I've never had a traumatic brain injury. Both of them, when they tell the stories, I had to keep it together because I had tears in the back of my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be leading this workshop. Keep it together, Aleya. Keep it together, Aleya. Keep it together, Aleya. Their stories of resilience, of change, of acceptance. Oh my gosh, Jennifer Rhodes and Scott Heathman. If you're listening right now, you guys are inspiring. And they did it in authentic ways. They did it in ways that made people listen. And, Jennifer is a change management consultant. She's in the change management and the consulting industry. She's talking, though, about traumatic brain injury and resilience that it has to do with change and the change management and transformation, what change really looks like when your poop is really not in a group and you have to go find all of the poops that is all of not in the groups and figure your whole life out basically from scratch. Scott is a former commander in the Air Force. He's commanded thousands of people. Talk about the stress of being a boss, right? Commanded thousands of people. He is now a consultant and he talks about adjusting your aim when you can't do normal everyday tasks, but you have been in pinnacles of positions of power. How do you redefine yourself? Oh my God, their signature talks. As I'm telling you right now, I literally have goosebumps. And I know that sounds like super like you can't see me. So Aleya, you don't really have goosebumps. Yes, I do. I told you I'm authentic. I have goosebumps even telling you about their stories because they connected on that deeper level. They had that emotional depth. If an Air Force commander can tell a story with emotional depth, you can too, as whatever you are, makeup artist, landscaper, coach, corporate person. Corporate people are the worst. And I can only say this because I was a corporate person and then technically still kind of am. Shh, don't tell anybody. We're the worst because we feel like if we show any emotion or we tell stories that lead people to get to know us, shock and awe, that we're going to somehow be less corporate. And to that I say, thank God. No one wakes up in the morning and is like, you know what I need today? More corporate. You know what I really need in this project team? More corporate. You know what I really need to hit revenue this year? Some jargon, some falsehood, not falsehoods. Well, that does happen in corporate too, but some falseness. I just need some more of that corporate juice. Yummy, yummy, yummy. No one ever says that. They say, I want connection. I want to understand. I need clarity. I want to be able to follow and be motivated to follow this person as they're leading me towards a direction. So you want to stay grounded. You want to stay connected to your story, even after you've told it multiple times. You know how many times I've told that postpartum story? But do you know how many times I get caught up in the beauty of telling it because I know it's going to help somebody, right? When you're doing it, you also want to engage with your audience. So being in person on stage is a magical experience, but you're not on TV, even though you probably don't ever want to watch TV or a movie with me because I definitely talk back at the TV and the movie. And yes, in the movie theater, I am that chick. Sorry if you've ever been in a movie theater with me. If you've ever been to AMC Burbank, it probably was me, the loud chick in the back. Anyways, being on stage is not like that. There are real people in front of you and you're a real person on the stage. So you can interact. You can point. You can have them yell out. You can have them raise their hands. You use storytelling to create a two-way connection. Oh, ask audience members. You're the listener. Ask audience members to interact with you, whether it's a Q&A, a story, or something else, so that you can interact. You're not just a walking blog post. Nobody wants that. Okay. In this episode, I've given you a lot of things to do. Number one of which is to buy my book when it comes out on September 19th. It is called Spark the Stage, Mastering the Art of Professional Speaking and Authentic Storytelling. Have you heard about my book? Did I tell you about my book? Okay, good. Just checking. So that's the first thing. Then there's a whole bunch of other action items, including getting to know yourself, getting clear on your stories, and figuring out how you're going to create emotional depth and have interaction during your talk. As you would imagine, this is like a little quick podcast episode. Truthfully, if you went and you listened to a bunch of my podcast episodes, you probably would be able to piece together my book and the course because I'm not one to withhold stuff. But if you don't want to pick and choose and go around and try to figure it out, I encourage you to just buy the book. I encourage you to buy the book because I encourage you to share your story. I encourage you to share your story because I am selfish. You are doing me and everyone else a disservice by not sharing your story. There is something that only you in your spirit having this human experience in the exact form that you're in, the way you look, the way you sound, the way you act, your life experience. There is something that only you can add to the human conversation that we are having on this planet Earth. That somebody is waiting for you to get their own breakthrough and they don't even know it yet. And when you don't get on stage, when you don't share your story, you are robbing them and me of getting the you-sized piece of inspiration that only you can give. So I encourage you, take the first step by doing the things in this episode, getting on that stage because you are going to be great. I don't care if you're not confident right now. I don't care if you're like, oh, do I have a story to tell? Yes, you do. I don't care if you're like, well, what's the structure? All of those things are figure outable. I don't care if you're the most shy person on planet Earth. You can feel confident on the stage. I can help you do that in this book that I've been mentioning. And also go scroll back and listen to some podcast episodes, because confidence comes from a grounded sense of self. It also comes from clarity that you know what the heck you're doing, and assurance that you are providing value, that someone in that audience will be better than when they heard you, than before when they heard you, right? So talk about all of these things within your board of directors, which for me, my board of directors exists between my two ears. And then stay tuned for the next episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast, because just in case you're wondering like how marketing works, you right now are in the lead up, in the pre-launch runway to when my book drops. So the next couple episodes are going to be me and more of me telling you and more of you all about how to be a speaker, talking more about my book, sharing some chapters, reading directly from my book, and hopefully motivating you, my dear friend. Can I call you my friend? Can we be friends, my dear friend? To get on stage. Because man, oh man, I've heard some people that have said, oh my God, I didn't ever think that I could do this. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad you did. Because I'm sitting there bawling, feeling transformed because they got on the stage. So I'm going to stop talking now. I wish you lots of love, light, and abundance. If you have questions about anything that we talked about, email me directly to my personal email, aleya@aleyaharris.com, aleya@aleyaharris.com. You can also go to aleyaharris.com and check out all of the things I offer, my speaking topics. If you are someone who books speakers, I'm a really good one. Like, really good. So you should book me. Go to aleyaharris.com to schedule a call or to send me an email. And thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast. Once again, my name is Aleya Harris. This is the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast, and I'm sending you lots of love, light, and abundance. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast with Aleya Harris. Vibing with what you hear? Leave a 5-star review to spread the love, and be sure to click subscribe. We wish you love, light, and abundance. See you next time.